This conference will now be recorded.
Everybody is speaking to the mic. Real treat you good? So far?
And one of these people is talking about changing some type of deal with part of money.
The cemetery. You have something on the cemetery.
Maybe that's future. There's pictures on.
Oh, okay.
I was just wondering how they. No.
What do you know? Yeah.
Leanne, how you doing? Okay, I'll help you.
The only thing
Good. Oh,
talking about
brewing or zooming?
Booming is
Good.
into the logger
Double
system
D.
instead of the pipe.
It's interesting weekend how sales are.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Today in Colorado were off. Andy came by,
You love your ice cream.
and my dad was there, and like he goes, he was. She's
It's like they have a movie theater.
Are we getting in trouble? Because that's it.
Sitting in the back of the room?
Call this July 6th council meeting order. Stand for the pledge. Prayer. Chaplain Manson. I was going to say the pledge first. Yeah.
Dear Lord, Father, always come to you. Ask the blessing this evening, guide us in the ways of the council, mayor, administrator, members of the staff, as they make their decisions for the betterment of our citizens, including all the surrounding area. We thank you for the council members who have departed and served, and ask your blessing of the new members who now join the council to begin the new fiscal year. We just celebrated the June 41st birthday of our Democratic Republic. Let us keep in mind the lives of this lost during its beginning and through all 44 years. Now we ask for protection and blessing for our men and women in our police department, firefighters, hospital staff, all first responders who risk their lives for ours. As we begin this new chapter today, please keep us and our children safe until we meet again. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Congratulations.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chaplain, thank you. Roll call, please.
Newman,
Here.
Bolden,
Here.
Dawson,
Here.
Roberts,
Here.
Richardson,
Here.
Here, Dawson, and Page.
We have two service awards tonight. Don Jennings is going to come forward and make a presentation. Peg Fields.
Began her career in 2000 as an account technician. Her initial responsibilities were to process accounts payable as well as to prepare payroll for all city employees. On November 20th, 2017, she was promoted to accounting manager, a position in which she undertakes a great amount of additional responsibilities, including monthly financial statement preparation and reporting, as well as supervision of the finance department staff. Peggy is well respected by all and is a valuable asset to the city of Louisiana. It is with great pride that we recognize you on this service anniversary milestone. The success of this organization is a direct result of such effort and dedication. Thank you, Peggy, for all you have done for the city of Louisiana during your 20 years of service and for your ongoing commitment to our
Yeah, going to be everyone's. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maybe you
Chief Ford? No. So we have the approval for the previous session council meeting. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We'll call the standing committee. So Public Safety, Chairman Thomas Holden.
All right, we're going to have just a few items on the agenda for public safety tonight. First is going to be a presentation by Officer Terry. Presentation involves his involvement in crisis management and how he gets the presentation around Missouri. We'll do the presentation tonight. And, yeah, great. Officer Terry.
Can you hear me? So how to use this? Closer to the time, there we go. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about the commitment, the Cipd Police Department's commitment to the community through de-escalation and crisis intervention team. So this is just an overview of what we're going to talk about this evening. What is the crisis intervention team? What is de-escalation? The Cipd PD, CIT commitment to the community, and then the impact that program has to the community. So the CIT program is a partnership of law enforcement and other first responders to include the behavioral health providers, hospitals, courts, and individuals with lived experience. So that's somebody that maybe has at some time had a or it was either a mental health crisis or something that has been helped through that process, and then we're able to share their experience with others and help them through that process. And community partners who are dedicated to implementing CIT. So the goal of this program is to promote more effective interaction between local law enforcement and other first responders and individuals in the crisis through a 40-hour training that the officers get, and then centered on behavioral health education and de-escalation skills. So what that means is the 40 hours is going to learn about the different crises that our people are in, whether it's substance abuse or mental health issues or just domestic. And then going from that and utilizing the de-escalation skills and putting them into practice. This will help individuals in crisis by connecting them with the appropriate community resources that we have here in this area. It improves the safety of the first responder because they're not necessarily have to go hands-on right away, but there's communication skills that they can de-escalate this person out of the hospital to get hurt, and then also the person that's in crisis doesn't get hurt. And then it just reduces the stigma. So how many times do you see somebody walking down the street and you have backpack on and there's several, maybe they're one of the first thing that comes to your mind when you see that. If they're a drug user or something, it could be something completely different. And that's what the officers learn to identify that, how to interact with those folks, and the other things that they need. And then expand the state CIT across the state. So about 6 years ago, there's a map of counties that are CIT, the whole state of Hawaii. If they have a council, it changes to yellow, and have to maintain that council after a year, and committed to it for term of year. There's probably only 3 counties in Hawaii now, so 6 years of state was really advanced CIT that far. So let's talk a little bit about de-escalation and what that is. So the state of Missouri definition is the use of various techniques to help a person in a crisis situation or to gain control of a crisis situation, like a domestic or something like that, and return things to a pre-crisis state, enabling a more normal level of communication and understanding. And de-escalation uses 3 basic guiding principles, and that is engage, assessment, and resolution. So in the engage principle, build trust by validating the person in the situation. And this is accomplished through various different things like awareness. So being alert to the fact that that is coming in a crisis, your situation, and remaining calm during that. So you have to be the calm in the storm. And encourage a relaxed atmosphere. It also helps keep you relaxed, and then you can get that person to relax a little bit, and then you can start looking through the problems. Empathy, acknowledge situations and feelings, be genuine with this, be real with it, and be yourself. Those folks that are in crisis, whether it's mental health or substance abuse, if you're disingenuous to them, they realize that, and that communication is not going to happen. If you show real compassion and that you want to help them, they realize that, and then that communication can go on. Acceptance, everyone deserves to be respected, regardless of illness, gender, religion, appearance, and the other thing that officers learn is when that person's in crisis, to not take things personal, have a thick skin, and let some of that kind of water off the backside, you just kind of let some of that stuff go. So in the assessment principle, gather necessary information to make safe resolutions for the officer and for that person, and to make sure that safety carries all the way through, from whether they're go to the hospital or get with a social worker or something like that. With that, some of the tools that are used is patience, speaking in calm, clear voice, and giving the situation time. Tone, be positive, talk to them in a supportive manner, encouraging, but you still need to hold them to certain behaviors. Trying to get from asking open-ended questions, allow them to talk through their problem rather than yes and no all the way through the process. It is in that event, and they get things off the chest, and you identify typically it's like 6 different things that's going on in their life at the time, and they want to, they'll talk to you about that, and then you utilize those to start kind of go, hey, here's the easy solutions that you can fix things with and take care of those. That builds that trust, and you just go through the list of things. It's important that you keep the person's focus and stay present in the current issues. If they'll run off on the tangent somewhere else, you need to bring them back to what you're discussing and what their problems are at the time. And then utilize other sources, whether it's the dispatcher or an enrollment system that may have a history of that person in there, or talk with family, friends, and neighbors to find out how long they've been in crisis or what kind of issues that they've seen. So then we move on to the third principle, resolution. Gain control of the situation and return to pre-crisis state. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. We want to set clear limits and explain what is appropriate and inappropriate behavior. So if they're helping them, they start talking about, well, I'll just kill myself. And you can from that back into seeing into their future a little bit rather than wanting to end their life. And then explain why that's appropriate. So communicate directly, be honest about what is needed and help set safe goals. Create options. I really like to have that person involved in their own care and what they want to do for themselves. And if it's a good plan, you go with it, and they have some ownership. Don't make promises you can't keep. You promise to say something that you've got no control over, that will backfire on you, and all that work that you've done up to this point, you just lost. So that's really important. Try to retain your dignity, again, like I mentioned earlier, even though they're in crisis or substance abuse or kind of health issue, they still know what you can do. So make sure that you do that. And if you can't at that particular time, then get another option where you can and just switch roles. And if you don't know something, I don't know, we'll work on that, we'll find that out together. And press through the issue with that. Take action. Once the plan is created, put it into action. I like to always explain, especially if I have control of what's going to happen next, is to let them know that, hey, so now we're going to go provide them with the hospital, and we're going to check you in, and we'll see what's going to go on from there. And in doing that, you take them there, and everything you said is true, and then what happens with that is you build like trust with them. Then you have to be careful. You might build such one that they don't want you to leave. So you have to be able to transition from you helping them to somebody else. So to the this part of the CIT community committee. So we've always done the escalation of some sort. It's the training and the name board and everything that's been fairly recent. So the first officer was trained in 2015. After receiving this training and realizing the benefits, the leadership of the state police provided an officer to the state CID council the same year. Today, this department also committed an officer to Missouri as a state certified CID instructor. Today, so that team is also connected with Johnson County. So there's a community mental health liaison, the chief from Johnson County, Chief York. We all work together, and we have a team that we built the training for and everything. And that team, between the two communities, has trained over 300 local first responders. We train police, fire, ambulance, social workers, juvenile officers, correctional officers, and nurses. So since 2015, 38 of the 43 today police sworn officers, that's 88%, and all dispatch supervisors and trainers have been completed the Missouri State CID program. The remaining 12% were enrolled into CID at certain times throughout the year, and COVID kind of put it the loss for that, and we've had to but most of the newer officers that haven't been trained have had some training in the police academy, and when they're with a training officer, they're being trained on that de-escalation, how they're interacting with the person's while they're training. So that knowledge is still being passed on, and once we get where the state that is out of CIT training, we'll get everybody done. So some of the impact it has on your community. it diverts people from jail to prison and sends them out to the community resources. So a little bit of background on that. 10 years ago, the mental health state facilities, there was no money in it, so they pretty much opened the doors and everybody went out to the streets, and it ended up being law enforcement and the community responsible for taking care of these folks. So what this, and the place for them to go was jail and prisons. And that ended up being the largest mental health facility where most of those people houses in jail. So to kind of clear that up, we bring them like an officer into within the community. So referrals to mental health and substance abuse resources. So mental health resources would be like Borel, you guys heard about that agency in town here. And then your substance abuse would be the Compass Health over there on Main Street. That's where those are supposed to go. Some of them would go to the community mental health liaison or different agencies, alcohol anonymous, things like that they can get help. This reduces repeated visits to the jail and the prison, so that cuts down the workload on them. It's reducing unnecessary emergency medical care and tying up emergency rooms with folks that it's really not a medical emergency, it's something else, so we divert them from there as well. And that also allows them to be scheduled through more routine appointments. It increases officer and citizen safety, it minimizes the use of force, and it also minimizes the level of force an officer has to use. Because they learn to communicate with these folks and bring them down from their crisis state. Higher success rate in resolving community crisis situations, extended skills of the officers, it intertwines the community resources with the first responders. So we may have fire that's interacting with somebody at a scene that's in crisis. They can get them help from there through their training and do referrals as well as the dispatcher referral or PCAD or ambulance service can do a referral as well. Where it used to be, it's only coming from the law enforcement side. Lessons, liability, and litigation for the first responders, because if we end up fighting with somebody and using more force than necessary, or why don't you just talk to them a little bit longer, that's what's going on, and it's lessening that liability and litigation. And resulting in overall improved community relations. So our commitment, the Civilian Police Department is dedicated to serving the citizens of our community through professional law enforcement. And we demand our officers adhere to strong moral principles and we hold integrity and the path of public trust. So that is all I have for you, folks. I'm willing to answer any questions you may have.
Couple notes. Detective Curry was the first trained officer in the city today in 2015, and he is a certified instructor for the state of Missouri, CIT. And 2 years ago, he was the civilian police officer of the year. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we're going to have a presentation from Thomas Oldham.
Spelling quicker and
Yeah.
So we can defer this since April.
That's right.
We're going to pretend like this is April. Autism week. So I have a proclamation on the very first. We have the family member here, who's going to introduce and talk about autism. Whereas the autism is the fastest growing developmental disability in the world today, with 3.5 million Americans with autism. Whereas April has been designated as World Autism Awareness Month, Together we can create a world-free care and inclusion for full understanding of acceptance of differences and strong. It provides localized and informed public and community commitment to provide support service to individuals diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and their families. Whereas the city of Cipd acknowledges its citizens with autism as a valued member of our community and recognizes the importance of education concerning autism. Whereas the city of Cipd is committed to becoming inclusive and free of physical and social barriers and aspires to provide equal opportunity for all persons with autism. Now therefore, do I guarantee the city of Cipd hereby on behalf of the city council, Civilian and citizens of the state, Civilian, with an autism for all citizens. We resolve that the city is dedicated to increasing awareness and support of individuals with autism along with education.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, I don't think I have it on. Is it on? No. I think so. All right, as you said, we're going to pretend like tonight is April. For those of you who don't know, April is Autism Awareness Month. So I'm going to give you just a little backstory of how I wanted to get this presentation back then, and I appreciate the Mayor and Kelvin Council for allowing me to give this presentation this evening. What you heard is we're now, today is now declared an autism-friendly city. So I'm going to go into a description of that and how we got to this point. So tonight's presentation, I'm going to give a little overview of what is autism. We're going to talk about the blueprint for building an autism-friendly city, what we've done so far to this point. We're going to talk about the achievements, accomplishments, and recognitions of what Missouri and what we currently have been able to accomplish, and some of the future goals as well for an autism-friendly city. And then you've heard our proclamation, and you're also going to see how bad I am at PowerPoint. So we'll come together. All right, last September, your council attended a Missouri Municipal League. During this conference, trainings included dealing with financial problems and economic development. During these hour-long sessions, there are also many flash sessions involved in this conference, and that's how I got one of those. Another thing we've learned at Missouri Municipal League was I'm probably the best one on council at karaoke.
You don't have a lot of competition, though.
Say what?
You didn't have a lot of competition.
I didn't have a lot of competition, right? There's only a couple of those. Let's see. This was the flash session that I attended during the conference. It is called a Blueprint for Building an Autism-Friendly City. During that presentation, let me back a little bit how this flash session attracted me. A couple years ago, I was introduced to the love of my life, and she introduced me to somebody who I think I love more than she. And that is Hayden Christopher Carter. Right, so Hayden is 7 years old. He's in the second grade. He is an amateur photographer, and he absolutely loves technology. Hayden also has autism. Hayden learns and reacts a little differently. He is funny, and most importantly, he is so happy. So let me explain what autism is. Now, I want to first start off by saying that I am nowhere near an expert in the field of autism. In fact, there are probably a couple of individuals in here who could give this presentation so much better than I could. And also speaking on the effects of autism, some of the pains of autism, but also the rewards that we see as raising those with autism. Autism is a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges to social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communications. Autism appears in many subtypes and is considered a spectrum disorder. Spectrum disorder shows a broad range of personalities of how someone is affected with autism. It could be a high functioning level of autism, which is basically difficult interacting with social interactions and problems with organizations. In fact, the characteristics can be so subtle that you could be interacting with somebody with autism and or it could be as severe as not being able to interact in a social setting, or not being able to break away from repetitive behaviors as well. A couple facts and figures about autism. Autism affects an estimated 1 in 59 children in the United States today. That's 1 in 37 boys and 1 in 151 girls. One of the main things that attracted me to wanting to make sure that Fidelity became autism friendly is that 50,000 teens with autism turn 18 each year, which means many of those affected with autism enter the workforce each year as well. 3.5 million Americans are living with autism today. Some of the stats and figures affecting autism, that nearly half of those are with autism motor and both from safety. 2/3 of children with autism in the age of 6 to 15 have been bullied. Nearly 28% of 8-year-olds have self-injurious behaviors. And lastly, drowning remains the leading cause of death in children with autism and accounts for approximately 90% of deaths associated with wandering or bolting by the age of 14 years old. I brought up those figures because one of the main aspects of building a blueprint for building an autism-friendly city is making sure the city's staff is trained. And I'm very fortunate to be able to give this presentation tonight because it really does create an offshoot of what Awesome Mark shared. Does with practicing and face-to-face training as well. And I was able to speak to him right at the very beginning, finding out what all he does and what we can do, how we can utilize him more so in building in the autism. So let's talk about the blueprint a little bit and what we've accomplished so far and the steps we've taken so far. The blueprint comes from Mayor Hickey and Dr. Linda Barbeau. Mayor Hickey is the mayor of Alabama, Missouri. Dr. Linda Barbeau is one of the aldermen for the city of Alabama. Mayor Hickey has an autistic grandson as well, and he is 18 years old. I do believe, if I can recall correctly. They looked around their city, and they wanted to make sure that her grandson, and those similar to her grandson, were able to have an inclusive lifestyle with the rest of Alabama. They reached out to businesses, they reached out to churches and organizations, and they reached out to the city staff is aware of the effect of autism as well. One of the first things they did, how we mimicked here today, is we started creating a street team, and we started reaching out to businesses and churches and organizations here in town, to bring them together, to make sure the public was more aware of these organizations as well, so we could start using them to utilize them to spread the awareness of autism. Second thing we did is we started talking about training with our first responders, city staff, and businesses. That's when I came back and reached out to Chief Carroll, and reached out to Chief Warren, to see where I'm staying, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to do, our first responders, and the training, specific training for those affected with autism. We reached out to city staff, we want to make sure that those who have interactions with those with autism were trained as well. We reached out to businesses to make sure that one of those 50,000 teens who are entering the workforce, they knew how to interact with those autism as well. We talked about community outreach, and we made our proclamation. We talked about our street team. Dr. Linda Barbeau, who I mentioned just a moment ago, is the director of Stars of Autism. She provides many training materials as well as in both regions material for those with autism. We looked at stepping stones, who I had a chance to interaction with at the very beginning of my scope of trying to make Fidelity a blueprint, Fidelity an autism-friendly city. We looked at Deeper Skills, which is a larger base of being able to make sure that families and support groups are aware of resources that can help them with autism. We reached out to Chief Carroll. We wanted to make sure that our firefighters are fully trained in many instances, if not every instance that they encounter is fearful and possible deadly, and having the chance of interacting with someone on the scene of an expired with autism or special needs, we want to make sure our firefighters are trained in that instance as well. We spoke with Chief Work from Detective Terry. We found out about CIT training and making sure that that is well as our emergency ambulance services. But I asked Officer Terry if we were able to provide this to our community as well. You may notice that we were able to bring a form of the practice training to our public as well. So for businesses and churches, we were able to provide them with information, resources, and training of how to interact. Another thing we look at with our city staff is our park and recreation department. They obviously deal with children many times throughout the week. And one of the first people who I reached out to was Miss Amy Hadley with this. And then she also recognized the need with me of the need for interaction with autism and making sure that there was inclusivity with children as well. So our Parks and Recreation recognized the need to include and create events for those on the autism spectrum disorder. During that, I wanted to create an autism event. And she, also Savannah Lynn, and she and her and I have been able to work many nights to try to make sure this autism awareness event could be put on. It was going to be put on in April, but because of everything that happened, we're going to move it to September. But we have a 5K autism awareness event that's happening in September, where we're able to bring out the community together and bring out many resources as well for those who face autism and families who need to have that information as well. But there's also items where splash pad that we're creating in the future that we can have back to those who face autism. And she's helping with some range of the autism awareness events. That is going to be sensory and disability items for those that are part of it. These are one of the items that we stand down. So the fun was to create the autism awareness event. We can start placing these this material at our parks or regular events where they feature earplugs, sunglasses, and other sensory items that we can have. We reached out for training for businesses. Like I said, several affected autism spectrum disorder are entering the workforce each year. So with our employer training, we wanted to have an understanding of their interaction with them. This is my stuff. My life said this stuff like this on this shelf. Don't touch my stuff. With our employees training, we want to make sure that there's interaction with the customer as well. For instance, restaurants, some of the restaurants recently, they know like I said, in certain places, business will go quieter away from the public. Or, for instance, if Katie, one of the Marion likes to know that Hayden likes specific types of food. So when we step in the establishment, we're able to already have that interaction with staff Katie and know that this is going to be a good experience for all of us. With retail establishments, we want to make sure proper facilities are also there. Many of those affected with severe autism need severe support and support later in life still. So we want to make sure restrooms and changing rooms were able to have the proper tools for autism. Same thing with beauty salons and barbers, and they were aware the ones who may move a little bit more and can't stay still, but they have the ability to utilize a beauty salon barber. A couple of spotlights that I wanted to bring to recognition that I've reached out to and are helping build an autism friendly city is Retrieving Freedom. They've been here for a while. They were supposed to have their grand opening a few months ago. We're going to have it here in just a couple of weeks. But provide teenage services those with autism, as well as veterans and those suffering with PTSD. And Gordon is located here in Seattle. Those are very welcome to join us tonight. I'm going to introduce him to everybody. He's on his way back to the tent. He's the CEO of Retrieving Freedom. Alyssa Curtis of Missouri, she's in charge of Retrieving Freedom here in Missouri. Second business I'm going to bring up was on Olden Ranch. I had a passion interaction with Ray on Olden at a chamber breakfast one morning. She wanted to move forward and working with those with Down syndrome and other special needs. And then when her and I couple of accomplishments that happened so far in Missouri and the United States that President Trump signed a $1.8 billion autism funding bill, public cares, collaboration, accountability, research, education, and support act. This now provides funding for the next 5 years to help people with autism spectrum disorder and their families. Big step there. And lastly, it's nice to know that our governor and Parsons are strong advocates for autism awareness. In April, we will have an event about the autism awareness event, and we're having it here in September. During this event, we have a 5K marathon. There we're also going to have many resources like Retrieving Freedom, Oliver Ranch, we're going to have several indoor activities as well, and many information and resources for families. An event that was supposed to happen in April, which we're going to have next day called Personal Autism Awareness, is Capital Day, where those affected with autism have a chance to incorporate themselves in the legislative system and become members for our representatives or senators as well, and you'll see a day in the Capitol. This is the Autism Awareness event that's happening in September. And this is our proclamation. One, we recognize the need for inclusivity. We will provide education training for our staff and cities to assist those with special needs. We will embrace diversity and tear down barriers, and finally, fidelity to autism. So thank you everybody for giving me the opportunity to be involved in awareness. Presentation here, and thank you, Mayor, and thank you everybody for allowing us to be declared autism program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
I'm not going to rush you, but you have the next item on the agenda.
Oh, I didn't go. Okay. Me again. Third item, final item for public safety is the contract veterinary services. In connection with our animal control efforts, expired July 1st, Randy Jackson, our animal service manager, has solicited bids for and received one bid from the spay and neuter clinic. This bid is substantially lower than past prices paid, and staff is confident in the ability to bid. Currently, the clinic does not offer x-ray or dental work, which is a common service need. However, they have indicated their plans to incorporate these services soon, and we have an alternate vendor to fill these needs until. So staff approves the ordinance to enter into agreement with veterinary services in the spay and neuter clinic.
Any questions from council? Arlene, would you read the orders, please?
Bill number 2020-115, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement signed between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and the Cipd Program LLC for veterinary services for the Cipd Animal Shelter.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Bill number 2020-115, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement signed between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and the Cipd Program LLC for veterinary services for the Cipd Animal Shelter.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dawson,
Yes.
Bobbit,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Foster, Page, Lehman,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
all in favor.
Thank you, Tom. And now the third item.
Finance and Administration has two items tonight. First one is a, ordinance with hormone drug testing, is an agreement. We have used dental drug testing for the last several years. In the beginning, we entered into a contract with them, and over time, it has been informally, some markups, modify changes to it. So tonight, we are just, formally doing those changes that have been done over the last few years.
Any questions from council? Arlene, you want to read the orders, please?
Bill number 2020-115, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement signed between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and hormone drug testing for substance and alcohol testing for the city of Cipd, Missouri.
Second reading?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2020-116, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and some drug testing for substance and alcohol testing for the city of Cipd, Missouri.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Roberts,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
all in favor.
My final item tonight, if anyone has been down in Ohio, it has been, evidently clear that Ivory Grill has added, a little area outside of their building for some outdoor seating. Through that process, it was missed that, we needed to change the ordinance so that they can have, drinks out there to extend to their areas that they have others. So this is, just a little bit of housekeeping to make sure that, everything is good with Ivory Grill in their new area.
Any council discussion? I think it's been very positive, but, we've had some rainy days, but I think it's really helped the business significantly. Any questions? All in, read notice.
Bill number 2020-117, an ordinance amending section 4-8 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Cipd, Missouri, for the servicing and consumption of alcohol at sidewalk cafes to include parklets located upon public streets.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-117, an ordinance amending section 4-8 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Cipd, Missouri, for the serving and consumption of alcohol at sidewalk cafes to include parklets located upon public streets.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Richardson,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
all in favor.
I got a little motion.
Thank you.
John Lehman has several things on the agenda tonight.
Your Honor, I can't resist this, since this will be the last meeting in terms of pages here. I remember back time for many years, as we sat here and she do reverse roles. I used to be in the finance and chief on public works. And she always had the longest list. We're not going to commit you. But it seems like your parting shot is that I get the long list tonight. I actually have 11 items tonight, and hope you all brought your bills, and you have to keep them whatever you might have set them back. First item we have this evening has to do with an engineering plan consultant for the water wastewater master plan. During our January session, when we get together for our project and stuff, that was part of it, that we need to have put into our changes for our master plan going forward, which actually is also part of the state statutes that we need to do with. And that put out a request for a qualification, and it came back. And the result of that, and reviewing that came back, has to do with two companies actually combining in the response. It has to do with Ernst & Young and Bar Engineering. Now, I'll read this little part to you here. The staff does recommend the awarding of this project to these two firms. And on approval by the council, the staff will continue negotiating the agreement and bring the full contract language back to the council for approval for our next meeting. There are some additional requirements that have to go on with the regulating agencies. So as we pull those back into this contract, it's probably what we're going to want to do. Using the same terms and building it together into a single contract now provides more efficient and effective use of the resources.
Yeah. This is not an ordinance, so it would just require a motion and a second and a voice vote.
So we have a motion on that?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's vote. Roll call.
I don't think we need. Is there any opposed?
Any opposition? Everybody? Thank you.
The next item I have has to do with rock salt.
I can hardly hear you.
Trees outside for dealing with rock salt. This allows us to purchase the rock salt, which we have had in the past, but it gets us in an off-season. Usually it's better to apply for us to be able to do this. This year, the bid that we received, there were two of them. The lowest bid was $73.96 per ton per delivered price from Central Salt. The staff does recommend the acceptance of this award. The college of Central Salt in the past had difficulties providing some material in a timely manner. Therefore, if they do not supply all of our needs in a timely manner, we will fill any remaining needs from the
Any council discussion? Arlene, read the ordinance.
Bill number 2020-118, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Central Salt LLC for transport and purchase of alcohol.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2020-118, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Central Salt LLC for transport and purchase of rock salt.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ross?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Page?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes.
August?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
All in favor?
My third item that I have has to do, it also came up in January, of providing funds to buy and replace two waste oil furnaces in our fleet maintenance facilities, which is across the street. And what that does is it allows to burn excess and old oil for heating and building itself. We did have one bid that came in, it was within budget, and it was approved, actually was given to, will be approved for Midwest Taco Sales in the amount of $20,000.
Any council discussion? I hate to talk about winning or bid, you know what I mean?
Yeah. On the oil burner, I think not only can the city furnish used oil, but the citizens of Cipd, if they change their own oil, they can bring that in, can't they? They have before.
I'm not sure we can from an EPA standpoint. If we start accepting things that we don't know of, then we're going to have to test it to make sure that we're not emitting pollutants. Am I correct, Brenda?
She's shaking her head, yes. Thank you. So any council discussion? Read the ordinance.
Bill number 2020-119, an ordinance approving and accepting a sales agreement by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Midwest E-commerce Sales for the purchasing of two waste oil furnaces to be utilized by the vehicle maintenance division.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-119, an ordinance approving and accepting the sales agreement by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Midwest E-commerce Sales for the purchasing of two waste oil furnaces to be utilized by the vehicle maintenance division.
On passage.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Foster?
Yes.
Page?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes.
August?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
All in favor?
My fourth item has to do with a truck and trailer, and as part of our planning back in January, also we had this into the budget. And it has to do where we split our mowing crews up into two groups and send them off into different directions and be more efficient in our mowing operations that we have. We had a local dealer run an order that's proposed pricing that is below the state cooperating pricing system that we normally get this month. Therefore, the staff recommends approval of the purchase of the half-ton truck to Brian Motor for $23,550.
Any council discussion? Read the ordinance.
Bill number 2020-120, an ordinance approving an executive quote by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Ryan Motor Company for the purchase of a half-ton truck to be utilized by the mowing and alley maintenance division.
Second reading.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-120, an ordinance approving an executive quote by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Ryan Motor Company for the purchase of a half-ton truck to be utilized by the mowing and alley maintenance division.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Page?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
Oldham?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes.
Roberts?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
All in favor?
My fifth item has to do with the Hanson Tree Service and lawn landscaping. They previously had been approved to provide lawn, yard, lawn waste grinding capabilities. That was, for $30,750 for the lawn and yard waste we had at this time. If you all recall, we had recent storms, and now we've got more debris to grind up. The staff work for Hanson to grind 5,000 more cubic yards for the remaining budget line inside of $11,250. It does kind of save us a little bit because they are not pulling away, they can do what they're still on the side.
Any council discussion? Arlene, read the ordinance.
Bill number 2020-121, an ordinance approving a one-year contract extension by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Hanson Tree Lawn and Landscaping Services, LLC, for yard waste grinding.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-121, an ordinance approving a one-year contract extension by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Hanson Tree Lawn and Landscaping Services, LLC, for yard waste grinding.
Final passage?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Lehman?
Yes.
Oldham?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes.
Roberts?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Page?
Yes.
All in favor?
My next item, number 6, in order to coordinate and better shorten the time as we go through the design and building of the Everett Community Center, the design team recommended and implemented a milestone procurement process. As part of this process, we bid out the specialty contractor pool construction for design assistance. We would obtain a contractor with a special skill set to help us design the pool in a way to make it more constructible. The design was not fully complete. Based on the concept of the pool at the time, the potential contractors were asked to provide their qualification along with indicative pricing. The simple motion was used to select Casey Gunnack as a provided contractor. Now that the design is complete, they did the exact specification. As we go forward with this, I may refer a little bit to our city administrator so you can kind of understand what's happening with this. It's kind of a little messy way to proceed with this, but I think we've got a real good hit on the end.
So council can add some clarity to this.
Yeah, and of course Amy's here as well, and she's been involved with this, and we went through this with the park board and brought them up to speed. But yeah, there was a little bit of a surprise, I guess, and when we got down to the final numbers, it was went from about $3.3 million as their indicative value or indicative cost at the time that they bid it based off of the concept. But when they bid the concept, you know, the exact construction specifications and the drawings and all of that were not available because we were trying to get their assistance to help us get to that point. There were a few things that they brought to the table as options. One of the big options was, that I recall we talked and they presented an option to basically suck air through the guttering system around the pool, which will greatly improve the air quality inside the room. Amy's talked to some other folks that use that, and also we think that's a good option. That was about $79,000, somewhere around in there as an option. The majority of the rest of those things were things that were either left out of the specifications. The pool size itself changed a little bit from that concept, because when they went through it, they decided that or noticed that they didn't make it big enough to meet the Missouri State High School Association's specifications for having diving. And then there was things like the boards had to be able to be raised up, and so that there's no conflict. But as I recall, the biggest item, the biggest driver of the cost was really the piping and how the piping ran, and what size the pipes were, the sizes of the filters, and all of those kinds of things, which were what they did was really there was no specifications on that. They just kind of said, okay, here's the pool, but here's, you guys decide, what all of the other things need to go into it. After a few tough conversations, I guess, with the architect, we came down to this is really where we need to be, and so what they have designed now, we're comfortable is what needs to be, the size of the pipes, all of those kinds of things were things that needed to happen. It was unfortunate that we didn't have this better specifications at the time that we bid it the first time, because then we would have had a better look at this and wouldn't have this level of a surprise, if you will. But again, I think, and the park board as well agrees that this is where we need to be. We still have confidence in this contractor, and so we're recommending going forward. What did I leave out, Amy?
Value, increases or not, I think the renewals to get more elaborate, necessary to have a pool that is healthy and safety for property transition more than something, guiding, the dining level in the park needs to be more to make sure it's right. These aren't, actually self-limiting.
I guess another thing I did leave out is we are still under budget at this point on the total project. And this budget is arguably, for this piece, is arguably about where we started out or where we thought we were going to be at the beginning. So, any other questions, comments?
Yes, discussion. Arlene, read the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2020-122, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement signed between the City of Cipd, Missouri, Cipd Parks and Recreation Department, and KC Van Nuys Incorporated for the construction of an aquatic center in the Hecker Community Center.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2020-122, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement signed between the City of Cipd, Missouri, Cipd Parks and Recreation Department, and KC Van Nuys Incorporated for the construction of an aquatic center in the Hecker Community Center. Second.
Roll call, please.
Holden,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Barber,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Gage, Lehman,
Yes.
all in favor.
Okay, item number 7 has to do with overnight camping and parking. especially the Katy Park. I also have some questions in regards to this. I don't say it's not fully vetted, we've done this, recent samples.
Yes, originally the application at the time that I had to write the council memo, there was still some flushing out that was going with the applicant as far as whether they wanted alcohol in the park, which would have required a different ordinance change or a different ordinance as far as open containers and those kinds of things. But we did review it with the Parks and Rec Board, and they are comfortable, and it is now just the camping in the park, and it's for the 2 specific nights as they go through and as they come back. So they're on their way to Clinton, I think, and then they stay down there and then come back on a Saturday, I believe. So.
And they've done this before, no issues.
Correct. So. And leave out anything, Amy?
No, just the fact that you're thinking, the week package on the way, it was stopping.
So.
And I was involved last year with Kyle Harris. We had a good time. People had a good time. So it's a good event.
Staff and the park board recommend approval. So.
Any comments? Read the ordinance, please.
Bill number 2020-123, an ordinance allowing overnight camping/parking in City Park for the big doctors across the Surrey ban on the City on Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020, and Saturday, July 25th, 2020 in City Park. Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-123, an ordinance allowing overnight camping and parking in City Park for the big drivers across Missouri ban on the City event on Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020, and Saturday, July 25th, 2020 in City Park. Second.
Roll call, please.
Johnson.
Yes.
Father.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cross.
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
Page. Yes. Williams.
Yes.
And Owen.
Yes.
All in favor.
Item number 8 has to do with the cemetery, special crown deal. Roger Walters, you want to explain what's going on here? We've got some issues in regards to stuff that's left on the ground. What happens is we're having trouble maintaining that larger area. So Roger, you got anything?
What we're looking at is something that is not a favorable thing. I think there's a lot of people that have it up on the ground. In order for us to get efficient, maintain the ground, keep the city where things look nice, not having grass that's put all around the headstones and things. It's asking that you do like other cemeteries in the area that have done it for years, to remove the flowers after Memorial Day, that allowing the flowers to be there the week before Memorial Day, the week after, and this will help us to maintain the grounds in a more efficient manner. Right now, we're spending the staff between a quarter and a half of our day moving flowers away from the headstones so that we can weed eat. So in order to be more efficient, we're asking that we remove these at this time and give us the opportunity to keep very limited there. So it's been a little bit of ag like this for the last month.
Any council discussion?
So, am I understanding correctly, you only want the flowers there the week before Memorial Day and the week after? Any other time you want them removed?
Right. The other thing that we're wanting people to do is use shepherd oaks. We've been encouraging that for several years to put flowers on those, use basins that are on the headstones now and things. We're not wanting to completely remove those headstones from the shepherd oaks that are in place and things. We want those to stay. But we're talking about flowers and ornaments that are on the ground. Stuck in the ground that we have to pick up and move, and then we need and then put them back.
only prohibits those on a rent, so.
I got a question. If this ordinance is passed, what kind of time frame are we looking at where we're going into effect? Will there be a window where people can go in and get their items?
I think the way the ordinance reads right now, this is going into effect now. My feelings are that we need to give families a week or two to come and pick up these flowers and ornaments that are there, because of the cost factor that's involved with artificial flowers today. I think they need that opportunity. I think between our social media, radio that we have today, our paper, contacting churches, just like we do in our annual cleanup every year, give these families a chance to come back and pick these $5 flowers up. Because we have a lot of them that will range in that $15 to $25 for one ring. And I don't think that it's right that we just walk away without any warnings. I think we need to give them help.
Any other comments or questions? Pauline, you want to read the ordinance, please?
Bill number 2020-124, an ordinance amending and adding certain sections of Chapter 14, Cemeteries, Article 2, Operation of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cipd, Missouri, by amending Section 14-23 to eliminate the reference to the Cemetery Public Works Committee, and by adding Section 1430 relating to the placement and removal of flowers, ornaments, and decorations in city cemeteries prior to and after the memorial.
Second reading.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-124, an ordinance amending and adding certain sections of Chapter 14, Cemeteries, Article 2, Operation of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cipd, Missouri, by amending Section 14-23 to eliminate the reference to the Cemetery Public Works Committee, and by adding Section 14-30 relating to the placement and removal of flowers, ornaments, and decorations in city cemeteries prior to and after Memorial Day.
On the passage.
Second.
Roll call, please.
August,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
and Donovan.
Yes.
All in favor?
The next item that I have has to do with the contracts that we have with the Hecker Community Center contractors. It's been pointed out that the contracts that we issued had a 10% bonding statement in it, and the actual industry standard is 5%. And we're proposing to bring those contracts to the back.
Yeah, that's the retainage percentage,
Right.
and it's my understanding from the experts, so to speak, is that when the original contracts had a 10% retainage in there, and the industry standard, one of the contractors pointed out to us that the industry standard was when you required a performance bond, that the retainage normally drops to 5%. So that's basically what this is we required both performance bonds and 10% retainage, and they're saying the industry standard is 5%. So we're bringing this to recommend that we drop the retainage or amend the contracts to take it down to 5%. Park Board dealt with it. They approved it Thursday night. So.
Any council discussion? Pauline?
Bill number 2020-125, an ordinance approving and accepting construction change directives signed between the City of Cipd, Missouri, the Department of Recreation, and Core/Structures Incorporated, Great Corporation, and Al J. Mueller Construction for the Hecker Community Center.
Second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-125, an ordinance approving and accepting construction change directives signed between the City of Cipd, Missouri, the Parks and Recreation, and Core/Structures Incorporated, Great Corporation, and Al J. Mueller Construction for the Hecker Community
Second.
Roll call, please.
Richardson,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Page, yes. Freeman,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes.
and Thomas.
Yes.
All in favor?
Okay, my next item, I'm going to read you this, it's a little bit lengthy, but it has to do with the street lights, which we're dealing with through the streetscape project that we have going on downtown. Actually, we're in our final phase. The street lights included in the design of the streetscape have been provided by Evergy, which is only KCP now leased to the city. We've been in discussions with Evergy to change this arrangement from a lease to ownership with metered service for the entire area. Due to our competing priorities, we do not include the cost of this overall purchase in the budget proposed for this year. With that said, the staff believes long term, this is the right way to go, and Evergy stated that they would like to exit this part of the business anyway. Recently, we found out that the lights for the last phase of streetscape currently under construction have not been ordered. In resolving this issue, we re-engaged these discussions of lease versus ownership of Evergy. If longer term, we are going to have ownership direction, it seems to be more sense to go ahead with the current construction that way. Staff work with Evergy vendor to purchase these lights correctly at the same price and recommends approval of the purchase for 21 lights for $74,340. Since this was a budget as a lease rather than a purchase, this will also require a budget amendment to approve these lights.
So one of the aspects on this is that we're gonna have to create a power source. So we're probably gonna have 2 meter bases, maybe more.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. So that's part of the deal. And with that, we'll be able to give us some flexibility of doing some additional lighting in the alleyways, maybe building or food trucks, for example. Any questions from discussion? Read the orders.
Bill number 2020-126, an ordinance approving and accepting the quote, buying between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Power Equipment Sales Company Incorporated for the purchasing of 21 decorative lights for the streetscape phase 4 project in downtown Missouri.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-126, an ordinance approving and accepting the quote, buying between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Power Equipment Sales Company Incorporated for the purchasing of 21 decorative lights for the streetscape phase 4 project in downtown Missouri.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Cross,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Page, Freeman,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes.
Father,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
all in favor?
The last one.
No, wait a minute, there's another order.
I'm trying to get done here.
Yeah.
Bill number 2020-127, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 regarding the purchase of decorative lighting for streetscape project.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Bill number 2020-127, an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 regarding the purchase of decorative lighting for streetscape project.
Final passage.
Second.
Roll call.
Foster,
Yes.
Page,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Oldham,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Richardson,
Yes.
and Cross.
Yes.
All in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
My last one. Part of the grant agreement that we had that we're building, that we used the money from to build the railroad store at the house in Newport this time, requires us to have a construction, a testing and inspection service. Staff put our queue out for it, and came back, and the staff recommends the contract for the bill services to engineering surveys and services for an amount not to exceed $175,000.
Any council questions? read the ordinance.
Bill number 2020-128, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Engineering Surveys and Services, LLC, for construction, engineering, and inspection services for the Cipd Program Industrial Park Rail Spur Project.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill number 2020-128, an ordinance approving and accepting an agreement by and between the city of Cipd, Missouri, and Engineering Surveys and Services, LLC, for construction, engineering, and inspection services for the Cipd Program Industrial Park Rail Spur Project.
Final passage.
Roll call, please.
Page? Yes. Lehman?
Yes.
Oldham?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Foster? Yes. All in favor?
Your Honor, we're done.
Thank you. Thank you. Liquor license?
We have one new license this evening and 7 renewals. The new license is for Erica Eisenmaker, doing business with Cipd Program, LLC, at 317 South Ohio, for sidewalk consumption. The renewal licenses, Brad Richmond, Wolfstrom, doing business with craft beer seller, 700 South Ohio, for liquor by the drink and Sunday sales, for sidewalk consumption. Alan Little, doing business with Cipd House Lodge, number 125, 320 South Kentucky, for liquor by the drink and Sunday sales. Diana Green, doing business with Bighorn, 160 South Limit, for beer and wine license. These are children doing business as American Legion, book number 42, and 2016 West Main, for liquor by the drink. Leah Girl, doing business with Roscoe's at 1613 South Limit, for beer and wine license. Fred R. Masterson, doing business with Royal Warrior Lewis, number 1494, at 119 Winchester Drive, for liquor by the drink. And John Cady, doing business with Kane's Barbecue, at 1915 South Limit, for a beer and wine license.
Second.
I questioned the last one.
Can't talk about it, it's in the room.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's your opportunity. Appointments.
2 members of the City Council for Mayor John Cady. I would like to make the following recommendations. New appointments to the City of Cipd City Council for the 4th Ward, Judge Wyman, 711 West Broadway Boulevard, completing vacant pages term expiring April 2021.
Do we need to do an adjourned cyanide?
Oh, you need to approve that.
We need to approve that. We need a motion to approve.
The appointment be approved first before we don't really need to find out.
Well, move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Weird voting on my replacement.
Come on up, Jeff. You have to show one up for you. She's just going to try. Yeah, thanks for coming. We've been trying to get her out of town for a long time. We'll call the order.
You want to swear him in?
We got to swear him in. I don't want to.
You got to swear before you can start.
If you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I am your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I possess all the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of city councilman of the city of Cipd, Missouri, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Missouri, the provisions of all laws of this state affecting cities of the third class, affecting cities of the third class, and the ordinances of the city, and faithfully demean myself in office. To be recognized. And if I'm oath.
I'd like to thank two people, Mayor Katie. Thank you for the appointment. I will do everything I can to help the city of Cipd. Thank you for as we talk about
But, you know, the responsibility of this chair is to have the best food in every council meeting. You're responsible.
No, you gotta break, you're the new councilman.
Somebody may not know, I ran for city council. It was a really close race. I kicked my rear end. 350 votes under 88. But I congratulate you again. And I was impressed with not making the city council, but like moving on, and 2 weeks later, I got the phone council. I'm thrilled. So thank you all.
You're welcome. It's going to be a good council. So we'll call this new council to order. Roll call, please.
Lehman.
Here.
Oldham.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Bonner.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Wyman.
Here.
So I passed out the new committee assignments earlier on. Everybody has that in the packet. So anybody from the mayor, city council, city administrator make a comment tonight?
I'd like to comment on the 4th of July celebration. I think it was excellent. I think we were one of the few communities that got to enjoy the fireworks presentation, and commend Amy again on pulling all that together and her staff. And, yeah.
It was incredible to me that fireworks display was a huge success, but it didn't deter people from shooting out fireworks all through the city.
Yeah.
I think, my goodness.
Yeah, are you tired of the calls yet? Did we burn anything down? Just one out. Whoops.
My poor dogs are so paranoid now. Just anyway. Anybody from the audience would like to say a few things tonight? Please come forward. Chris?
Chris Marshall, I'd like to know, the sanitation department, the garbage trucks, when will they move back to the alleyways?
Move back to
The alleyways.
the alleyways. I do not know that answer. But certainly we'll look at that. So.
Well, mine have to stay on the front of the house, because I can't move back before that. I have a driveway and then access around the house, other than the one I'm blocking. I'm in the middle of the block. Second, there's a pothole where the bricks were removed at Harrison and Cipd.
that a water main?
It's next to the water main. So I think it was torn up to gain access. They filled it in with gravel. Gravel's over the weather. It makes me.
We'll get it on the agenda.
And my final is, I know that they're in the budget for the sidewalks. Any progress on leaving the sidewalks?
Actually, we had a meeting today, we discussed that, you know, we appropriated $1,000 for sidewalk repairs this year. We're actually going, we made a decision that instead of going over, we had the water main replacements, or we broke out a small portion, go ahead and replace the whole sidewalk. So I don't know where we are in the time frame and the city staff and contracting out. Hopefully we'll get, we are doing some work now. Come forward. Good evening.
How you doing, Mayor?
Best day ever.
Best day ever.
Yeah.
I'm John Masters. I was here 3 weeks ago, Veterans here for the MIA presentation. Really touched on the gentleman, the chair, next POW.
Al Hawkins.
My dad was a POW in Korea, when he was shot down. I'm a Vietnam vet. He was my hero, my dad. He's 94, he died 2 years ago. Something he told me a lot was to count my blessings. I live here today is a real blessing. 7 years, which is California as well. Town. I was here last year about this. I thought I'd bring it back. Be around town. I know it's not a problem. Mayor and I talked about it. Pictures of the addresses again. I'm here to report this all. It's still all out there and none of it's been done. I can see. So you spent a lot of money tonight. This wouldn't cost much. So, that's it. I won't be answering this first. I told her I would.
Make sure that folder gets.
That's it, thanks.
That's all. Can you make sure that folder gets to me?
Yeah, we'll get that to you. Anybody else? Please come forward. So we have a motion to.
Make a motion to adjourn to closed session.
All in favor? All in favor? All opposed? I don't want to go to see her.